Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Score Studio. Welcome to the show. So on this episode, I've got a very exciting deck tech for you. One that is so fun, it should be illegal. Wait, this just in? It is illegal. This commander is actually not a legal commander, though many in the community, including myself, have said as soon as these commanders or non-commanders came out, essentially there was a cycle of them like, oh, those look like they probably should have been legendary, but they weren't. So, yeah, kind of an oopsie. But, yeah, all you need to do, again, when it comes to being able to play a commander like this is just simply ask your playgroup. Commander is a social format, so just talk. I mean, you could literally use anything as your commander. You could use illegal commanders as your commander. You can use banned commanders as your commander. You just need to ask your playgroup, and if they're okay with it, great. Or, you know, those at your LGS commanders, a social format, again, just talk. So, without further ado, let's talk about the so fun it's illegal commander, Soulfire Grand Master. Yeah, this is an incredible card. A really cool card that had all the potential to be a commander until Wizards just forgot to put that legendary on there. But we're just going to ignore that. We're just going to pretend it says legendary on it. And again, if your playgroup's okay with it, that's great. Anyway, Soulfire Grand Master is a 2/2 human monk with lifelink that costs 1 and a white and says, instant sorcery spells you control have lifelink. So that is absolutely massive. Kind of like a Fire Song and Sunspeaker, being able to, you know, gain life off your instant sorceries. That is great. And there are some really cool things that we can do to take advantage of that in ways that we can gain, well, an absurd amount of life without really spending all that much mana to do so. On top of that, by paying 2 and is it, the next time you cast an instant sorcery spell from your hand this turn, put that card in your hand instead of your graveyard as it resolves. So being able to essentially, you know, just get a spell immediately back in your hand instead of it actually going to your graveyard, that is massive. Being able to just say, you know what, I like that spell so much, I'm going to get it back in my hand so I can do it again. And then maybe again the next turn. And then maybe again the next turn. And of course, yes, there are some brokenly awesome things that you can do with this as well. And we will get to those and all the other awesome cards in this deck. And as we are going through the cards in this deck, remember that on decks like this, on episodes like this, I'm going to take you through different tactics to show you how this deck works and how we're going to win with it. And of course, every single card in this deck outside of the commander, which is just outside of the, you know, normal budget of, you know, less than $1. Well, all the other cards are less than $1, so it's a very budget-friendly deck. According to Moxfield, it is $27.95 again for this awesome deck. And of course, yeah, if you are interested in this deck, make sure you check out that card list link in the description below. But again, please, 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 ask your playgroup, ask those at your LGS if they're okay with this commander as your commander first, because again, it is an illegal commander. It is not technically a commander because it is not technically legendary, though it should have been. With all that said, though, let's jump into tactic number 1, which I am calling Fire Starters, because, you know, Soulfire Grandmaster starting it off. Regardless, here we go. First up, of course, there's Wayfarer's Bauble. Pay 2 to tap, sacrifice, go get a basic land and play tap. A fantastic turn 1 ramp spell. Turn 2 land ramp. Yeah, you can't really land ramp too much in Jeskai. It's a great way to do it. And of course, we've got a lot of other great, efficient mana rocks in this deck as well. Arcane Signet. Tap for any of our colors. What's not to love on turn 2? Of course, we've got Azorius Signet, as well as, you know, Boros Signet. And yeah, is it Signet's not next, unfortunately, not in the order of these, but yeah, these Signets are great. Pay 1 into them and tap, and they're going to add the guild's colors, which is fantastic. Moving on, we've got Felwar Stone, which can tap for most of our colors, most of the time, essentially. Depends on our opponent's lands. Regardless, a great, efficient, again, turn 2 ramp that can tap on the same turn it comes down, which is huge. One that unfortunately cannot, but is still a great card in this deck is Fire Diamond. Apparently the cheapest version is this one. Enters the battlefield, taps for a red. We're going to be running all the diamonds, and again, efficiency is key. Getting things out early, getting things out effectively, getting our commander out, and getting set up can be crucial for this kind of a deck. There's the Is It Signet. There we go. Rounding out all of our signets and going back to the diamonds as well with Marble Diamond, and then of course Sky Diamond, each of which tapping for a white and then a blue. So yeah, these again are efficient, are effective. Not as good as some of our other mana rocks, but still very effective. And again, you can't beat that cost of less than 10 cents. Next up, we do have a Talisman or 2 in this deck because they are finally more budget friendly. Talisman of Creativity, which got a reprint, I believe, back in Phyrexia LB1, the Commander Precons. Taps for colors or taps for a red or white, deals 1 damage to us. 1 damage is nothing in a format like Commander, because again, we start at 40, and again, our Commander is going to be gaining us an absurd amount of life. Again, just a simple spell. 1 singular spell can gain us, like, I mean, upwards of, like, 100 life. So, yeah, 1 damage, not a big deal at all. So, of course, we're also going to be running the Talisman of Creativity. Does the exact same thing, but it's going to tap for blue or red for that damage. And then finally, in our mana rocks, we've got Midnight Clock, a great mana rock that is, well, temporarily going to be in play for us for a decent amount of time. Taps for a blue, pay 2 and a blue, put an hour counter on it. Beginning of each upkeep, get an hour counter on it. Once that 12th hour counter goes on it, we shuffle our hand in the graveyard into our library, draw 7 cards, and exile this. So again, temporary ramp again for us. Not the most efficient again at 3 mana, but still, it does ramp us, and also it does replace itself, and that and then some, you know, getting all of our cards out of our graveyard, back into our library, shuffling our hand in there too, and then drawing back up to 7 cards. So again, a great way to reset things for us. Now, you might think we're done with ramping, but we're not quite done with it just yet, but in a different way. So let's move on to our next tactic, which is tactic number 2, which I'm calling Reduce and Reuse. Because again, our commander can reuse things, and these cards will help us reduce, like, you know, Font of Magic. Enchant for 3 and a blue. Instant source spells you cast cost 1 to cast for each time you've cast a commander for the command zone this game. Oh my goodness. Again, our commander is very low to the ground, just 2 mana. So being able to recast our commander is quite easy for us. When we do so, this is going to get more and more impactful. Again, reducing the cost for instants and sorceries by a lot, making it a lot easier for us to actually utilize our commander's ability, which is huge. Speaking of which, we've got Mind Splice Apparatus. Again, another way to reduce the cost of our cards in an incredible way. I mean, instant sorcery specifically. Artifact for 3 and a blue with flash. At the beginning of your upkeep, you get an oil counter on it. In sorcery spells, you cast cost 1 to cast for each oil counter on it. So we can flash this into play right before our turn if we want to. Again, every single time we get a counter on this, on each of our upkeeps, we are making our spells more and more efficient. Making it so to the point that we could even just be, well, spending just, you know, non-generic mana on these spells, essentially, reducing all that generic mana cost out. Oh my goodness, in a big way to do so. A slightly risky way, though, I will say, but one that we're going to be able to take more advantage of than our opponents is Arcane Melee. Instant source spells cost 2 less to cast, enchantment for 4 in a blue. Yeah, that is a massive reduction. And again, yes, this benefits our opponents too. But again, our opponents don't have a commander that can just, you know, get their spells back right into their hand after they cast them. So yeah, being able to cast spell after spell after spell. Of course, this can lead to some very, very, very broken and awesome things. So yeah, reducing cards is great. But actually, we have another way to reduce things, and actually, it might be the most important, well, I mean, in a way, but also not in a way. Oh my goodness, being able to reduce our commander's ability cost is huge, and Zerda the Dawnwaker does just that. A 3/3 Elemental Fox for 1 Boros. Abilities you activate that aren't mana abilities cost 2 less to activate. This effect can't reduce the mana that costs you less than 1 mana. And we can make a creature not be able to block, which is nice, I guess. But yeah, more importantly, hey, you know your commander's incredible ability that costs 2, is it? Now it just costs is it? It costs 2 mana in total now instead of 4. It halves the cost of that. And again, it makes it so much easier to be like, yeah, I'll just pay the 2 extra mana to get this spell back to my hand and then do it again. Of course, this can lead to some very broken, very explosive plays. Yeah, Zerda is an incredible card for this deck, and, you know, in some circumstances, it could be your companion if you built the deck in that way. There are certain creatures, though, that I want to include in this deck, certain things I want to include. Obviously, I don't have activated abilities, so, yeah, unfortunately, cannot be the companion for this build. But yeah, it is a fantastic card in the 99. But now let's move on to the next tactic, which I am calling Hit Me, because there are certain creatures that actually want you to deal damage to them. There we go, we got there. And first up, well, we can make any of our creatures a creature that wants us to actually deal damage to them with Blazing Sunsteel. An equipment for 1 and a red. It's going to get +1/+0 for each opponent you have. That's nice. Not really that important, but that's nice. Whatever creature is dealt damage deals that much damage to any target. So any time that creature is dealt damage, and again, we've got a lot of ways, we'll go through here in a bit, to deal a lot of damage to creatures, well, we get to dish that damage out to somewhere else. Like, you know, maybe one of our opponent's faces. Or, actually, we can go infinite with this with our commander quite easily by attaching this to our commander and then making our commander indestructible in one way or another. And we've got some ways I'll talk about here in a bit. And then just dealing a single point of damage to our commander. Well, our commander can then deal the damage back to itself. And then again, and then again, and then again. It's indestructible, so it will survive. And also it has lifelink, so we gain an infinite amount of life. And of course, there are certain other things that we can benefit with that as well. But yeah, gaining an infinite amount of life, that's quite nice. Now, one that won't gain us life, but one that does, well, take our opponents out quite efficiently and effectively, is the incredible Brash Taunter. a 1/1 Goblin with Indestructible that says whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target opponent. By paying 2 and a red, we can tap it and it fights on a target creature. So, fighting creatures, that's nice. If opponent has a great large creature on the battlefield, we're like, oh, cool, hey, you got like an 8/8 over there. Let's fight. Oh, mine's indestructible, so it survives, and it also takes 8 damage, and now you take 8 damage to the face. So yeah, being able to, again, use maybe some damage-based board wipes to take out a lot of things, and yeah, dish out a lot of damage will gain us a lot of life with our commander, and then of course, with this kind of a creature, we can dish out that damage, and this is going to stay in play again because of that indestructibility. Speaking of which, Stuffy Doll. Now, this is a bit more specific on what we have to do with it. Still a very effective card. 0/1 Indestructible Construct. It says enters the battlefield, choose a player. Whenever it's dealt damage, deals that much damage to the chosen player, and it can tap to ping itself for 1. Cool. So again, kind of like a lesser version of our Brash Taunter, but still very good again. Pick one player, and that player is not going to last very long. And yeah, if we have ways to get this back out, well, we can take advantage of that again. But yeah, one that just punishes all players, including ourselves. But again, we are fine with that because we're going to gain the life back anyways. Let's talk about Coal Hauler Swine. Coal Hauler Swine is a 4/4 board beast that costs 4 red. Whenever it's dealt damage, it deals that much damage to each player. Every single player is going to be punished for this. And of course, we've got a lot of ways to dish out a lot of damage very quickly, very efficiently, very effectively. And yeah, this says, hey, everyone, we're all going down quite a bit. Oh, but I just gained like 100 life, so I'm fine, but everyone's going to take like 20. But I just gained 100, so that's fine. So yeah, Coal Hauler Swine can be a great card in this kind of a deck. And yeah, these kinds of creatures that actually want to be hit are fantastic. And of course, again, we've got ways to actually protect a creature like this that might not have indestructibility. Speaking of which, let's move on to our next tactic, which I am calling Tough Stuff, and you might be able to guess what the kind of cards these are. And yeah, first up, we've got Blacksmith Skill, an incredible card in this kind of a deck. An instant for a single white mana. Target permanent gains hexproof indestructible until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, gets +2/+2 until end of turn. Who cares about that +2/+2? What we care about is 1 mana, hexproof indestructible on anything. Again, a great way to protect our commander in many situations, including from our own board wipes as well. And again, yeah, like a Coal Hauler Swine can survive, you know, from one of our damage-based board wipes as well with this. So this can keep some key pieces in play. Speaking of which, next up we've got Fight as One. This is a great card. This can protect 2 of our things. Choose one or both. Target human you control. Target human creature you control gets +1 gains indestructible out of turn. And the exact same thing for a non-human for just a single mana. Our commander is human. A lot of other key pieces are not. So yeah, again, for 1 mana, protect our commander. Protect another key piece, again, like a Coal Hauler Swine, which is a boar, not a human. So yeah, it can protect both, and again, they can survive our damage-based board wipes or just other things as well. Our opponent's board wipes too. Next up, we've got Lauren's Escape, another great card. Target artifact creature gains hexproof indestructible out of turn, scry 1. Again, kind of like Blacksmith Skill, just a great way for 1 mana to really protect something and get some additional card selection with it too. Moving on, we've got a creature that can help protect other creatures, Selfless Spirit. I cannot believe this is budget friendly again, finally. 2/1 flyer, sacrifice a creature control, gain indestructible until end of turn. So protect our entire team for just 2 mana. They can just sit on the field and, you know, help us out, you know, throughout the game, just dishing out some damage. Sure, a great card for us. Speaking of which, Linvala, Shield of Seagate, somewhat similar, 3/3 flyer. It's got something to do with, you know, parties. Don't worry about that. Sacrifice it, creatures you control gain hexproof indestructible until end of turn. Yeah, being able to protect our team in a variety of ways like this can be absolutely massive. And yeah, of course, we've got plenty of other ways to protect our team as well. Make a stand. Creature control +1/0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. Yeah, a nice little pump for them. That's nice. The more important thing, again, is protecting our entire team. We've got plenty of ways to destroy things. And we've got plenty of ways to say, you know what, let's keep our things in play. And also, again, our commander's got ways to make sure we can keep getting them back in case we need to keep protecting things too. Next up, Rootborne Defenses. Same thing, kind of populate. Creatures you control gain indestructible. The important part, again, is that indestructibility. Unbreakable Formation. Creatures you control gain indestructible on turn. You cast during your main phase, you get a counter on all your creatures. They gain vigilance. Again, that's nice. The important part, though, is indestructibility. Protecting our entire team. So we're also going to be running, guess what? Your temple's under attack. Another way to give our creatures indestructible if we choose that mode. Or we can say you and target opponent each draw 2 cards. If we're desperate for card draw, we can do that. But yeah, most of the time, a great way to protect our team. We can also protect a key piece or 2 with a card like Cradle of Vitality, and this can be quite incredible as well. Whenever you gain life, you can pay 1 and white if you do. Put a counter on target creature for each 1 life you gain. We're going to be gaining an absurd amount of life, and with this, we can be like, our commander is kind of tiny, kind of squishy. Let's make our commander absolutely monstrous with all the life that we're gaining. Maybe even turn it into a 2 or even 1-shot KO. And of course, make it be able to survive our future board wipes as well. Our future damage-based board wipes, so it can survive those. And our opponent's creatures very well might not. So then we can swing through and maybe even just 1-shot some opponents with our commander. Speaking of which, our entire team might be able to do that with Nykthos Paragon in play. Whenever you gain life, you may put that many +1 counters each creature you control. Do this only once each turn. So again, in a big burst of life gain, this can be fantastic. So make sure you are keeping that in mind. Again, when we've got some spells that are dishing out a lot of damage, we are gaining life from those spells. And now it's time for us to talk about those incredible spells in our next tactic, which I am calling Burn It Down. And burn it down we shall. Let's start off with Magma Quake, a great card, instant for X red. It's going to deal X damage each creature without flying in each planeswalker. Most creatures do not have flying. This will take out a lot of creatures. Again, we're going to have ways to protect our creatures. We're going to have ways to gain an absurd amount of life with this. And also, each planeswalker, if our opponents have planeswalkers in play, they're going to get burninated as well. Moving on, speaking of burninating our opponents, Mizium Mortars. It's going to deal 4 damage to target creature we don't control, or we can overload it, so it's going to deal 4 damage to all of our opponent's creatures. It keeps ours safe. Ours are fine. We don't need those indestructible cards to keep them safe. Our creatures are fine. We burninate our opponent's creatures, and we gain an absurd amount of life. So, yeah, ways to pad our life total, we've got plenty of them. Speaking of which, Starstorm. Instant for X red. It's going to deal X damage to every single creature. No limitation on flyers or non-flyers, and we can cycle it away if we don't need it. But yeah, a great way to just burninate things down to the ground. A very cheap and very cost-efficient way to do so, though, is with Arc Bond. It's an instant for 2 and a red. Choose target creature. When that creature is dealt damage this turn, it deals that much damage to each other creature and each player. My goodness. Okay, so let's say, again, someone's swinging with a big creature. Cool, another creature blocks. You know, we say like, oh, that's like 8 damage to that creature. Cool. Yeah, I'm just going to cast this and then make it so that every creature is taking that much damage. Every player is taking that much damage. And again, for just 3 mana, I'm gaining an absurd amount of life. Oh, and by the way, of course, I've got enough mana to also cast, you know, one of my indestructible spells too. So my team's fine. Have fun. So yeah, a great card. And yeah, another cost-efficient way to just burn things down. Chain Reaction. This one can be even grosser. It's going to deal X damage each creature, X the number of creatures on the battlefield. You're playing against any kind of a deck that likes to go wide, maybe like, you know, a token deck, maybe just, you know, a regular go wide strategy, creature-based strategies. Hey, there's like 20 creatures on the battlefield. We're playing Commander. You know, it's multiplayer. Cool. Let's play this for 4 mana. Gain an absurd amount of life. Again, if there's 20 creatures on the battlefield, that's 20 damage per creature. You're gaining, what, 400 life? That's not right. Is that right? Yeah, I think that's right. I don't know. You're gaining a lot of life. I think it's 400. Yeah, a ton of life, again, for just 4 mana. And of course, you know, if you've got, you know, those brash taunters, those stuffy dolls in play, your opponents aren't going to last very long at all. Next up, we've got a way to actually increase the creature count or burninate things with Burn Down the House. Choose one. Burn Down the House deals 5 damage each creature and each planeswalker. That is great. Or create 3 1/1 devil creature tokens with when this creature dies, just 1 damage to any target. The game hits all of turn. So again, if we need to increase the creature count, we can. We want to burninate things, we can do that as well. And then finally, we've got a way to get another spell back and also burninate things with Volcanic Vision. Return target insert source card from your graveyard to your hand, deals damage equal to that spell card's mana value to each creature your opponents control, exile it. So basically, hey, the bigger the spell, the more damage, only to your opponent's creatures again. So again, your creatures are fine, kind of like that Mizium Mortars. And of course, we get that spell back into our hands. So again, it gives us another opportunity to utilize it and maybe just keep getting it back with our commander. Now, as good as all these cards are, there is one, in my opinion, that stands above the rest. That, of course, is the Golden Pig of the deck, the #1 card out of 99. And the Golden Pig for this deck is Swans of Bryn Argoll. Oh my goodness. I love when this card can work in a deck because it is so spicy. A 4/3 bird spirit with flying that costs 2 Azorius. If a source would deal damage to Swans of Bryn Argoll, prevent that damage, that source controller draws cards equal to the damage prevented this way. Yeah, again, we're going to be dishing out a ton of damage, an absurd amount of damage again and again and again to a lot of creatures. And with this, now we just get to just draw an absurd amount of cards every single time, too. Again, think about like a chain reaction cast with this in play. Draw 20 cards for like 4 mana. Lovely. And again, this one protects itself. It is basically indestructible in a way. I mean, it isn't really indestructible, but our burn spells aren't going to take it out. In fact, again, they're just going to benefit us. They're just going to have us draw an absurd amount of cards. The amount of card advantage this can provide us is absolutely absurd, and that is why, in my opinion, it is the Golden Pig of this deck. But of course, we've got other ways to generate card advantage as well. So let's move on to tactic number 7, which I am calling Burning Bright. Again, Burning, Soulfire. Anyways, Diviner's Portent, a great card. Instant for X, blue. Roll a d20 and add the number of cards in your hand. 1 through 14, draw X cards. 15 plus, scry X, then draw X. This can be a great draw spell. Fill back your hand. And just, yeah, get yourself ready for your next big play. Get up, more burn spells. Get up more, indestructible spells. Get those creatures that you need to take your opponents out. Moving on, how about Frantic Search? A great card to just keep getting back in our hand again and again and again with our commander's ability. Draw 2, discard 2, untap 3 land. So basically a free spell in a way, and one that is basically loot 2. So a way to dig through our deck, get to the cards that we need, And again, yeah, untapping those lands. We might even net mana on this if we've got, say, like an Is It Boilerworks, one of those, bounce lands essentially. So yeah, this can just be a great card in many situations. Again, especially for a commander that can get this spell back. Next up, another big X draw spell, one that also gains us life on top of that, and we do have some other draw synergies too. Whenever you gain X life, draw X cards. So yeah, a way to gain even more life. Of course, we can utilize this, in with, Nykthos Paragon and stuff like that, and also, just gaining a bunch of life, drawing a bunch of cards instant speed. What's not to love about that? Next up, Stroke of Genius, also great X spell, X2 in a blue. Target players draws X cards. Another great way to just dig down deeper into our deck to dig for the great cards that we want to win with. Factor Fiction, another great one. We make our opponents decide though. Reveal the top 5. Point separates those two into two piles. There we go. And then we pick one of those piles, goes in our hand, the other goes into our graveyard. A great card for card advantage, card selection. Next up, we've got Pirate's Pillage, though. We're going to discard 1 card to draw 2 and make 2 treasure tokens. Unexpected Windfall is our next one. Basically the exact same thing, but at instant speed. So again, very flexible, very fantastic. And one that, hey, you know what? We can just keep getting back to our hand, maybe with our commander's ability, so we can just keep kind of, temporarily ramping with all those tokens that we're going to keep making, all those treasure tokens. Yeah, there's a lot of exciting ways that we can use our commander's ability. Next up, one way that we can use our commander's ability to gain us a lot of life, though, is with Well of Lost Dreams. When we're gaining that life, we are able to then turn that into card draw as well with Well of Lost Dreams. Whenever you gain life, you can pay X for X's less than the amount of life you gain. If you do draw X cards, we're not going to be short on gaining an absurd amount of life. And yeah, we're never going to have the mana to really fill this. So, I mean, we might at a certain point, actually, and we'll talk about one card here in a bit. But yeah, to be able to just draw an absurd amount of cards, we can draw a lot of cards with this throughout the game, just gaining life here and there. And speaking of drawing cards, yeah, another card that is somewhat similar to Swans and Bryn, Argoll, and a very good card in its own right. Body of Knowledge. Power down is equal to the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. Whenever it's dealt damage, draw that many cards. So this one does need a little protection again. The indestructibility on this can be fantastic. Once we get this going, though, it can be really hard to take out because, again, it's going to get bigger and bigger based on the number of cards in our hand. And then finally, we've got a flexible card, Fast and Furious. Instant for 2 in a red with the fast. Discard a card, draw 2. So if we need to do that, we can. Or if we need to dish out some damage, Furious is going to deal 3 damage to each creature without flying. So again, a flexible card that can help us out whatever situation we are in, which is great. Next up, though, we've got some ways to maybe put out some small fires. Let's just say that maybe that our opponents have. So a Braid is going to be our first card, destroying either an artifact or dealing 3 damage to target creature. This can be very flexible. Again, a way to take out a small creature opponent has, a way to deal 3 damage to one of our creatures for, again, one of our benefits. Yeah, a great card in and of itself. Is It Charm? A very flexible card, though. Choose 1. Counter target non-creature spells. Controller pays 2. That can be great. Again, non-creature spells are usually what we care about. Is It Charm? Deals 2 damage to our creature. So again, flexible in what we can take out. Draw 2, discard 2. Again, an incredibly flexible card that can help us out in so many situations. Speaking of flexible, Rip Apart. Choose 1, deals 3 damage to our creature, Planeswalker. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Can get rid of basically anything. I mean, small creatures, medium-sized creatures, essentially, small planeswalkers, or ones that don't have a lot of loyalty on them, or yeah, an artifact or enchantment, or we can just dish out the damage again to one of our key creatures that we need to. We also have Smash to Dust, though. Choose 1, destroy a target artifact, destroy a target creature with defender, or it's going to deal 1 damage to each creature opponent's control. A very simple way to gain an absurd amount of life. Maybe take out some really tiny creatures, again, like a token deck. Or also, yeah, if we just need to destroy an artifact, or again, if you're playing against your Arcades the Strategist Friends deck, take out their defender, too. So yeah, a very, very good card for a deck like this. Moving on, though, we've got some more ways to put out fires with tactic number 9 called Putting Out Fires. And we've got one that can start off with a very, very simple, very, very effective counterspell with Dispel. Instant for a single blue, counter target instant spell. Yep, very simple, very effective, very awesome. And yeah, you know what's awesome? Counter spell is finally budget friendly. Thank you for that reprinting and Dominary Remastered. Instant for 2 mana, blue, blue, counter target spell. Yeah, very simple, very effective, can help save us in a lot of circumstances. Moving on, negate. Again, the non-creature spells are the ones that we usually care about most. So countering those with, negate for just 2 mana can be great. 1 in a blue, counter target non-creature spell. In a somewhat similar way, we've got Unwind. For 1 more mana, we get a counter target non-creature spell, but we also get to untap 3 lands. And again, with these kinds of spells, hey, your commander can bounce them back to your hand. So you're just kind of like getting a free spell back in your hand. And again, if you got Zerda in play, this is like a repeatable counter spell for like 2 mana. Absolutely absurd. Or even, yeah, if you've got, those bounce lands that can tap for more, maybe even free, so there you go. Also, outside of our damage-based board wipes, we've got some other ways to throw into our opponent's plans, like Aether Gale. Return 6 target non-land permanents to owner's hands. 5 mana, bounce 6 things. Pretty fantastic. And when it comes to flexibility, Austere Command wins that. Sorcery, choose to draw artifacts, enchantments, small creatures, big creatures, depending on whatever situation we're in. This can really help us out again. And keep in mind, yeah, even if you've got some creatures in play that might, you know, meet that requirement of being destroyed, they might also be indestructible, or you can make them indestructible. So you can make this into a very one-sided board wipe for you. Now, outside of, you know, just dishing out a ton of damage, you know, maybe with Brash Taunter, outside of, you know, those kind of effects, outside of, you know, giving a bunch of counters to our creatures and take our opponents out that way, we've got some other ways to take our opponents out as well. So let's move on to our final tactic, which I'm calling winning ways. And the first card that I want to bring up is a gross one, is one that can combo with a lot of other things. And here we go, Dramatic Reversal. Untap on online permanents you control. So if we've got enough mana rocks in play to cast this and also bounce this back to our hand instead of it hitting our graveyard with our commander's ability, yeah, we can basically generate infinite mana. So yeah, we generate infinite mana, and then we've got a wide variety of ways to win from there. So yeah, pretty gross, pretty fantastic. And yeah, if we have infinite mana, we also have an infinite amount of ways to recast spells. So even if we just have simple damage spells, we can take our opponents out with those too. Moving on, if we're in a one-on-one situation, a meaner, grosser way to take opponents out is kind of with Exhaustion. This is a really, really gross card. I mean, it's great, just, you know, not even on one-on-one, but it is a card that if you are on one-on-one, it can be pretty brutal. Exhaustion, creatures and lands target opponent controls do untap during their next untap step for just 3 mana, and again, it's one we can get back. So let's say someone's tapped out land-wise. Yeah, you don't get to untap. Oh, and if it's a one-on-one again, oh yeah, I'll pay the 4 mana for my commander to have this go back to my hand, so I can do it again next turn, and then next turn, and then next turn, and your lands never untap. So the only mana that you're getting is either from any artifacts you might have, which might not be many, or any, and any lands that you might just be putting down later. But yeah, you're pretty much done. You're pretty much in trouble. Okay, yeah, that's pretty gross. Speaking of gross, Notorious Throne. Yeah, there aren't many extra turn spells in budget, but this is one of them, and this is one that can kind of set itself up thanks to this commander. It has a prowl cost for 5 and a blue, so you can cast for its prowl cost if you don't combine into a player with this with a rogue. Now, we don't really have many rogues in the deck, or any, but we do have this spell, which makes rogues. Create X1/1 Black Fairy Rogue creature tokens of flying, where X the damage dealt to opponents this turn. So first up, you're going to be dealing a lot of damage to opponents with a lot of things again, with a lot of those damage-based spells, with a lot of those, you know, Brash Taunter effects. You can dish out an absurd amount of damage, so for this 4 mana, you can make a massive army and just win with that. But of course, if the spell's prowl cost was paid, you take an extra turn for this one. So if you basically, you know, cast this, you bounce it back to your hand with your commander. Next turn, you dish out a damage, you know, with one of these fairies that hits an opponent. I guess I should say a fairy rogue. And then you get that prowl cost, you cast that and bounce it back to your hand again. You can basically get infinite extra turns with this. And yeah, you can very easily win, you know, with your fairies as well. So yeah, plenty of great ways to win this commander. It's a really exciting one. Again, please, I do urge you that if you do want to build this commander, if you do want to buy this deck, again, check out that deck list link in the description below, but also ask your play group, ask those your LGS first, because again, this is an illegal commander. It is not technically legendary, even though I think it should have been. Many people think it should have been. It technically is not. So yeah, ask your play group, ask those your LGS first, and of course, I hope you enjoy it. As always, though, thanks again, and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.